Look, I'm just gonna get right to the heart of the matter. I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. I'm not a. I really can't stand James Harden. You know, I try to be unbiased, man, but I don't like his game, man. I really cannot stand to watch this guy fucking play. I hate his game. It's so. I just don't understand it, man. I don't see what all the fuss is about. This is a guy that takes advantage of all of the rules that are out there now. You know what I'm saying? Like his game is totally predicated on taking advantage of all of the rules that help offensive players. You know, like to me, he's basically Adrian Dantley with a 3-point shot. Okay. But even Adrian Dantley wasn't this. How can I say this? Adrian Dantley didn't have all these holes in his game offensively. You know what I'm saying? Adrian Dantley wasn't a 3-point shooter, but Adrian Dantley had a mid range. He could post you up. You know what I'm saying? He was a very capable scorer. He just was very selfish and only cared about stats and didn't bother to play defense. And, you know, his high usage isolation game was, you know, it could stymie the offense and it could hurt the team. But at least the guy made 54% of his shots. So he was efficient. James Harden, on the other hand, only makes 44%. I don't care if it's because he takes a lot of threes. I don't care. His game is he's not efficient. He doesn't have a good mid range jumper. At least I can't see it because he never takes it. Okay. When he's hitting threes, it looks great. Okay. When he's when he's hitting his step back threes, you know, hitting 9, 10 threes, 8 threes, it looks great. But more often than not, what you see with James Harden, you know what I'm saying? This is what pisses me off. Every 5 or 6 games, or 4 or 5 games, James Harden will have a 40-point game, right? He'll have a good game, shoot 17 or 34, something like that. He might hit 5 or 10 or 11 threes, and it looks good. But what, you know, ESPN will tell you is these other games where, you know, he might have 25 points, but he's taking 27, 28 shots, missed 20 of them, and got most of his points at the foul line off cheap shit. You know what I'm saying? Ticky tack fouls that wouldn't have been called even 10 years ago, let alone 15, 20 years ago. I just hate his fucking game. Um, I was looking at the all time leader in 50-point games, and James Harden is climbing up the list. Um, Wilt Chamberlain, if you include the playoffs, had 122 of them. Jordan, if you include the playoffs, had 39 of them. Kobe, if you include the playoffs, had 20, I think 6 of them. And James Harden is like at 17 or something like that, 17 or 18. And I wouldn't be surprised if James Harden approaches Kobe's total after this season. Um, but having said that, to me, he's not the scorer or nearly the player that Kobe Bryant was because of all the rules that are in place now to help a guy like James Harden. Last year, I mean, defenses are handcuffed more than ever before. At least in the 60s, the reason why the scores were so high was because of the high pace of the game. Now the game is opened up, but the defenses are handcuffed. The defenses are handcuffed, and judging by some of the scores that I saw in the preseason, they may average even more points this year. Last year, the league average was 111 to 112, somewhere in there. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 113 this year. I mean, it's way out of whack, man. Last year there were 22 individual 50-point games. 22. 22 50-point games. Harden probably had half of them, or damn near half of them. Contrast that to, say, the 97-98 season, when only two guys had 50 points in the game. Karl Malone with 56, but he was against the Warriors, and Tracy Murray had a 50-point game. I can't remember who he did it against, but I know who he was playing with the then Wizards. That was it. Michael Jordan didn't score 50. Shaq didn't score 50. Yes, he did. I take that back. Shaq did have a 50-point game against the Nets. I think it was in April of '98. Shaq did have a 50-point game. But still, only three guys had 50 points that season. The next season, 98-99, nobody scored 50. The 50-point game used to be a rare event. It used to be something that was, a great experience, a great event. Now, um, it happens so much now that it's lost. It's kind of lost its luster. So like triple double, it's just lost its luster to me. And I don't care about James Harden scoring 40 points or 50 points. It doesn't mean much to me when he does these things. At the end of the day, if he doesn't get to the NBA Finals on his own, hey, if he doesn't get to the NBA Finals on his own, it doesn't matter. All this stuff doesn't matter, man. At the end of the day, he's too deep into his career now for him to be. In all honesty, he's too far into his career to be playing for statistics anyway. The first couple of years, yeah, I understand a guy trying to make a name for himself. He wants to show what he can do. But now James Harden should be at a point where he's primarily focused on trying to win championships. He's still primarily focused on MVPs. And that's the difference between him and a Michael Jordan and a Kobe Bryant, okay, and a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and a Jerry West. All those guys, even Wilt Chamberlain. Those guys could score with the best of them. Jerry West has the all-time record for scoring average in the series. 1965, he averaged 46.5 points against the Baltimore Bullets. Jerry West, I think, averaged 40 points per game in the 1969 NBA Finals, even though they lost. He's the only player to ever win a Finals MVP on a losing team. Okay? But at the end of the day, Jerry West could care less that he averaged 40 points in that series because they lost. Michael Jordan, you never hear him brag about that 63-point game. I remember one time in an interview he said the only thing he remembers about that game is a sequence when he went inside. The only thing that he said that really comes vividly in his mind is that he remembers driving to the basket and fouling out Bill Walton. He said, he doesn't really cherish that game because they lost. Kobe could care less about games that he scored a lot of points and they lost. James Harden, on the other hand, brags about, I had the 32 points and I did all these great things, but I didn't get the award, but it is what it is. Man, shut the fuck up, man. Who cares about all that shit? End of the day, you average significantly fewer points in the playoffs than you did in the regular season, which you always do, and you choke when your team needs you. So I'm saying, I don't give a fuck if you average 50 this year, okay? Nobody cares. Wilt Chamberlain, the year he averaged 50 points per game, he did not win the league MVP. It went to Bill Russell. It went to Bill Russell because Bill Russell was on a great team and he was their best player. And he was the main reason why the Boston Celtics went from an exciting offensive team in the mid-1950s to being a dynasty. Because he anchored that defense. All right. And when they added other pieces defensively, like a Satch Sanders and a Casey Jones, a John Havlicek, when they added certain pieces, plus they had the shooters like the Sam Jones and the Bill Sharman and those guys. And later on, Havlicek became a pretty good shooter and a great scorer. There was a dynasty. So, like, at the end of the day, nobody really cares about all these scoring games at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Only people are going to measure you by, if you want to be measured against those guys, if you want to be measured against the best dudes, is what you do in the postseason. So this regular season shit, You scoring 60 points against a lottery team or 50 points against a bumbling franchise, nobody gives a fuck. At least I don't. Maybe some of those, impressionable young guys who are all about statistics will. But at the end of the day, we all know what time it is with this dude. And props to Giannis Antetokounmpo for sticking up for himself. All right, you know what I'm saying? He rightfully won that MVP last year. He made the Milwaukee Bucks relevant. He made the Milwaukee Bucks a team that people were talking about again for the first time since that 2001 season. You know what I'm saying? When they had Glenn Robinson, Sam Cassell, and Ray Allen. And really, the Bucks haven't been relevant consistently since the 80s. So he made Milwaukee great again. MMGA hats. You know what I'm saying? But like he said, the trophy's at his house. It's at his house. So take it away from him. You know what I'm saying? Already I'm watching Houston and I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't like James Harden, he's doing the same shit. He's just a selfish fucking player. All he cares about is his fucking stats. That's all he cares about. You know what I'm saying? Mm. The guy that James Harden reminds me of the most historically is Adrian Dantley. Adrian Dantley was a great scorer. Okay, he's in the Hall of Fame now. Took him a while, but he's in the Hall of Fame. He's a great scorer. But Adrian Dantley had a reputation for being only concerned about his stats and not playing defense. And at the end of the day, one of the main reasons why the Detroit Pistons traded him at the start, not at the start, but during the 88-89 season, the reason why they traded him is because he just didn't fit their offense. At times it worked. Adrian AD ball, it worked sometimes, but a lot of times it stagnated the offense. All right. Once they traded Mark Aguirre, you saw a difference. You saw a difference. They were a totally different team. Before they traded Adrian Dantley, the Pistons were 28 and I think 15. Not a pretty good record, right? 28-15. After they traded for Mark Aguirre, the Pistons went 37-4. And when I see James Harden, I see a lot of the same traits. The difference is at least Adrian Dantley was an efficient scorer, 54% for his career. And he didn't have all these holes in his offensive game. Adrian Dantley could post you up. Adrian Dantley had a mid-range. The only thing Adrian Dantley didn't have was a three-point shot. But at that time, in the 1980s, small forwards weren't shooting threes. All right? James Harden has all these holes in his offensive game. All right? I don't need to rehash this shit. He's a guy that benefits off of all the rule changes. You know what I'm saying? He takes advantage of these rule changes. You know what I'm saying? I just don't respect his game. And at the end of the day, I don't care if he averages 40. I don't care if he averages 50. I don't care how many 50-point games he has. At the end of the day, if the Houston Rockets don't at least make it to the NBA Finals, it's a failure because this guy cannot seem to take his team anywhere when the going gets tough. When his team needs him the most, he gives them the least.